Hi everyone, welcome to my first video racing in the MotorMotion V8 Supercars Series sponsored by Shawfire. This series is based on the Gen 3 supercars that will be in action in the live series, and I will be driving the Chevrolet Camaro. I am racing for Gridline Racing, a new team to MotorMotion and owned by Scott Taylor. Today we will be racing at the Red Bull Ring, a track I do like racing at and feel we may be fairly competitive here. The series is broken into two lobbies, the Brock and Johnson lobbies, and I will be racing in the Johnson lobby for the season. Weather is forecast to be clear and sunny today, which should make for great racing. This is a 32 lap race and pit stops will be required. After a great qualifying session, we were able to put the car on pole, definitely not something I expected. The objective for me here is to get a good start and to make it through turn 1 without incident. Being at the front definitely helps with that, and I'm hoping to capitalise on a good qualifying. We get a good launch off the line and I'm pretty happy with the way that went. As we're approaching turn 1, I'm very aware of the cold tyres and I brake a little bit earlier to make sure that I don't take the corner out wide. Turn 3 is a particularly dangerous corner for spinning out, so I'm concentrating a lot on throttle application coming out of the turn. As you might notice, I've actually got traction control on at the moment. I will be turning it off, but for the first lap until the tyres are warmed and the car is settled, I'm just keeping it on so as not to ruin my race on the first lap. For those unfamiliar with GT7, the view in the top right is my race view. This was the view that I had during the entire race, and the main view you're seeing is the race replay. As we come to the end of the first lap, I'm very happy where we are sitting. Obviously we've maintained our position in first after attaining pole. I've been able to get the car settled, tyres are warming up, and I'm starting to look now into getting a rhythm to continue on through the rest of the race. As you can see, the Mustang of Dylan Scarborough is super quick and he is on my tail. So my objective here is to settle my nerves, keep him in the rear vision mirror and just concentrate on my throttle application so as not to spin out on any corners and thus, compromising my race. A little bit about the series that we're racing in. So it is part of the MotorMotion E-Series, which is a new league on GT7, and this series itself is based on the Gen 3 V8 Supercars, which will be running in real life in 2023. This series has tuning available, though there are PP and horsepower limits to provide a little bit of parity between the Mustang and the Camaro. There are 15 teams in the series, comprising of 2 drivers. Some teams, their team owners actually are one of the drivers, where there are a small number of teams which the team owner just is managing the team, and they have contracted 2 drivers to drive for them. There are a number of new teams in the series that haven't raced in MotorMotion before, and Gridline Racing is one of those, and I was lucky enough to be contracted by the team owner Scott Taylor to represent the second car for Gridline Racing in its first outing in league racing for I think over 12 months, and especially the first time within this league. Back to the racing, and what we can see is Dylan is really putting the pressure on me, trying to cause a mistake. I've noticed that within this part of the track I'm a little bit quicker than Dylan. and I tend to pull away through turn 7 and 8. As we come over the start finish line, I put in what happens to actually be the fastest time that I do during this race. So quite a good lap, but the action isn't over. As you can see here, Dylan's Mustang is super fast and he is driving the car well. All I see in my rear vision mirror is the big Ford badge, and I know that he's pressing me to make a mistake. What I'm trying to concentrate on at the moment is to not panic, not get nervous, just drive the car and modulate my throttle input as I exit corners so as not to make the mistake he's waiting for. As you can see here, Dylan gets a fantastic exit out of turn 1 and he is right on my bumper. I am more than well aware now that I am under the most pressure I have been since the start of this race, and I need to be careful about how I defend my position. Coming into turn 4, I need to be careful as we come around this corner not to try and get out of shape, noting that he is ready to pounce. Again, coming through turn 6, 7 and 8, I have the pace. I'm hoping that I can pull out a little bit of a gap on him to give me a bit of breathing space. As you can see there, the Mustang getting a bit out of shape. Dylan is applying the pressure and he is on my tail as we commence lap 6. I am more than aware now that I am under the pump, and any slight mistake on my behalf is going to have him overtake me for the lead. My concern here is that if the Mustang gets in front of me, I don't know if I've got the pace to actually reel him back in. So I need to defend my position, and I need to make sure that I drive the best that I can. Dylan takes a look up the inside of turn 3 just to show me that he is there and to ensure that I'm looking behind as much as I am looking forward. I get out of shape coming out of turn 4, and this is the mistake Dylan has been looking for. I can sense that he is now getting ready to make his move. He's keeping pace with me coming through these sets of corners, and an overtake is imminent. In the drag race over the line as we commence lap 7, and all I'm thinking about here is to hold my racing line. Dylan backs out, tucks in behind as we enter turn 1. He knows he has the pace going down through turn 2 and leading up to turn 3, and he is on my tail. Again, he shows himself up the inside, but then tucks in behind. I have gone a little bit deep, and now we're drag racing down to turn 4. This is all about holding my nerve here to get through these next set of corners. I'm a bit more conservative on turn 4, so I can get some speed coming out of turn 5 and 6 to go through the faster sections of 7 and 8, in which I'm a little bit quicker than Dylan. I can see there's a little bit more space behind me now. And I seem to have just gotten myself a little bit more breathing space between my car and his. What you may have noticed here is my shift point being at about quarter up the rev range, and this is because I'm trying to save fuel as well. The strategy for this race is to do a 2-stopper, which means I need to get 11 laps out of a tank. The racing softs that we're using can go considerably longer than 11 laps, so fuel is the concern, hence why I'm conducting some fuel saving. As we come over the start-finish line to commence lap 10, we can see we've got a little bit more space between Dylan and I. The Camaro is doing a great job. It's planted. My objective was to be in the 127s and around the mid 127s, and I've been fairly consistent in that. Dylan is still pushing, and my job right now is just to remain settled, drive the lines, defend my position. As we come over the line to commence lap 11, we start to see the pit stops occur. Dylan goes in for the pit stop, followed by Robbo in third. I'm going to stretch another lap because the tyres feel good, I've got enough fuel, and the more that I can stretch the 2 stints out means I have a little bit in reserve at the end, and if I need to defend a position by using the rev range, I'll have the capacity to do so. Cooch has decided to run with me at this point. He hasn't pitted either, so I anticipate that he is going to replicate my strategy, in which at the end of this lap I'll be coming in to conduct a pit stop, and I should expect to see him come in at that point as well. As we enter the pits, What I'm looking for is to obviously replace my tyres with racing softs, and I'm going to fill up the tank to go for another 11 lap stint. So I need to be careful coming out of the pit here, and I'm very interested to see where I sit, if I'm in front of second place, and if I am, by how much. And as we come out of the pit, what I've noticed is that I'm about 3.5 seconds in front of Dylan in second place. So I've gained some time, and my strategy seems to have worked out quite well for me at this moment. As you can see with the battle pack behind for second, there's a few cars battling for that, and as we transition forward to the next lap, you can see that I've actually opened up quite a good gap with Robbo leading that battle pack behind. As we see here, a little bit of overzealousness, a little bit of complacency, and I have gone all out of shape coming out of turn 4. This has now opened the door to that battle pack behind, and in particular Robbo, who can smell blood in the water. This is so disappointing. I had such a good gap between myself and second, and Robbo is not a slow driver by any stretch of the imagination, and I don't have the pace on him as I did in Dylan through these sections of the track. Right now, in my mind, my heart rate is up. I am panicking. I have to now just calm my nerves and concentrate on the driving. There are a number of things running through my mind at the moment. I'm very cognizant of my shift points, noting that I need to conserve fuel, but I'm also trying to work out if I can use a little bit more rev range to try and get away from the Mustang that is bearing down on me. I'm also filthy with myself. You know, I set myself up with a great qualifying and holding position through the first sort of half of this race to set myself up for what would be the first race win that I had ever achieved. Right now, I am driving this car within an inch of its life. I am trying to make sure that I'm not making any mistake. My senses are heightened. I'm trying to use every bit of the track to try and get a gap between Robbo and myself, but that is proving elusive. As we transition to lap 20, I'm now starting to consider when I'm going to pit, possibly around lap 22. And I'm also aware that we are now running up behind some back markers and how I'm going to maneuver through the field in that space. I've got a little bit of a gap now between myself and Robbo in second, and I note that the second pit window will be opening soon. So I'll be keeping an eye on the leaderboard to see when those people start pitting. As we're coming up behind one of the ISA cars, trying to look to where I can get past without compromising the race, and thankfully that driver was nice enough to move aside and I didn't lose any time to Robbo behind. As I'm coming through turn 6 and 7, I'm trying to find a gap, and I get through unscathed. Thanks again to the ISA drivers for moving aside there. As we approach pit lane, I'm going to be super keen to see who actually pulls into the pits. And as we see, Robbo pulls in, not a lot of fuel left on board for him, and so does Dylan. So again, Cooch, second place. He is on a similar strategy to myself, and he is essentially a fair distance behind me. I have about a 3.5 second gap between myself and second, and I'm starting to feel a lot more comfortable. As we move forward to the end of lap 22 or the start of lap 23, I've come into pit. I've taken full fuel and a new set of racing softs. I know I've got 9 laps to go, and what I've done a little bit differently to those behind me is I've actually fully fueled the car. And there's a couple of reasons I've done that. One is that I want the most available fuel for me in case I needed to defend my position. I've got some very fast drivers behind me, and I don't want to have to compromise on revving the vehicle in case I need to defend. Secondly, the car feels planted when it's full of fuel. Funnily enough, I've had a bit of an issue with it, being a bit skitterish as it's gotten light on fuel. So I wanted to avoid introducing any factors that may compromise my race from here. All I am now concentrating on is I have less than 10 laps to go. I have driven well enough after 2 pit stops to still be in first, and I just need to be collected, navigate the back markers to hopefully bring me to my first ever overall race win and put Gridline Racing up there in the points. As we move forward to lap 26, I'm noticing my lap times aren't the greatest. Obviously, heavy car, colder tyres. I need to get back into the mid 127s. Cooch is close behind me, a very good driver from Black Rose Racing, and he is on the pace at the moment, and he is closing up, and I'm starting to be very aware that I'll need to be defending my position sooner rather than later. I am aware though that I have enough fuel, and I actually haven't been revving the car out too much, and it might be time for me to actually start to put the hammer down. As we move forward to the second last lap, I've been able to maintain my position at the front. All needed to negotiate back markers, which has been a bit sketchy at times, but we've come off unscathed, which has been fantastic. Cooch is still right in a fight behind me. I've been needing to drive very well, and as you can see from this lap, this was actually my fastest lap of the race. And this is the sort of pace that I needed to achieve to put the gap between myself and second. At the moment, I'm noting that I've only got, less than 2 laps to go. I do not need to make a mistake. I'm driving fairly conservatively here. I'm braking a little bit earlier than I normally would, just to ensure that I don't slide into a corner, and I'm also modulating my throttle coming out so as not to spin the wheels and come unstuck. As I start looking at the time delta between myself and Cooch in second, I'm starting to get the impression that he is trying not to push as hard as he was before. I have a relatively decent gap now, and unless I make a mistake, I'm fairly confident that I can pull off this win. And as we move onto the final lap, I'm excited. In the car, I know that it's less than a lap for me to pull off my first ever outright race win. I'm excited to have been able to put Gridline Racing on the podium in its first ever outing in the MotorMotion E-Series. I'm excited to be racing this car in this series. These cars are fantastic to drive, and the organisation and the setup to have this series run as a replication of the Gen 3 V8 Supercars Series in real life is amazing and a testament to the organisers. I'm also thankful to Scott Taylor, the team owner of Gridline Racing, for giving me the opportunity to be the second driver in his team for this series, and it's fantastic to be a part of this team. As we come up to the final series of turns, I just can't believe it. 32 laps, a winning strategy, a winning car, and what more can I say? But thank you for watching this video and sharing with me my very first overall race win. I'm by no means a fast driver. All I've tried to do is be consistent and improve my racecraft, and I think today was the result of all the effort that I've put in. I don't expect to replicate this anytime soon, but I am so happy that I was able to at least do it once. So thank you for being a part of this journey, and if you like this content and want to see more, please like and subscribe to the channel. I will be endeavouring to put out a video per round. Again, thank you and see you next time.